I really, really hope that Halo Infinite is the game that the creators at 343 wanted to make. As long as it's the game they wanted to make and they're happy with it, I am happy. But like, I've been like replaying through the Halo games again, and I was playing Halo 4's multiplayer. I was playing it with friends online, and I was playing Halo 5 campaign and stuff, and I'm like, man, like it seems so clear to me, like Halo 4 was them passionately creating what they wanted, and then there was backlash, and then they kind of altered course, and then Halo 5 came out, and then there was backlash to that, and now we know for a fact they altered course with that as well because of the backlash to Halo 5. The game got rewritten, the story got rewritten, they took more time to do the slip space engine and all that, so like...
Oh, you're talking about Infinite?
Yeah, so
okay.
like I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I really love Halo 4 and 5 for different reasons and for varying reasons, and I think they were good games. And like, it just makes me sad to think, like, I feel like, maybe I'm overthinking it, but I feel like Halo Infinite and where we are in the timeline with that game and what it looks like, what it plays like, everything about it, it's a constant result of course correction from feedback and fans. And I just hope that the people that work at 343 enjoy their job, enjoy what they're creating, and want to create it. Because I know, like, Marty O'Donnell said on record several times, he's like, when we did ODST and Reach, we weren't doing that to fulfill a Microsoft quota. Like, we wanted to make these games. We enjoyed making these games. And there was things people didn't like about those games. But I feel like, and I'm sure Bungie listened to fan feedback a lot and had it change things they did, but like, it feels like 343 from the get-go has been very much like listening to fan feedback and altering course because of it. And on one hand, you can't blame them because it's like they inherited this huge franchise and they got to, make the community happy if the series is going to thrive. But like, I love that we have Halo 4 and 5. I really enjoy their place in the timeline of that franchise's existence. And Infinite looks so wildly different from what we've seen from 343 in the past. Like, if you think about it, if you had said from that gameplay trailer of Halo Infinite that it was by a new developer, like this was a different developer making a Halo game, I think you could have believed it, because most of what we saw in that Infinite trailer or demo doesn't really look like anything resembling 4 and 5. So obviously I love what I saw in the Infinite trailer, but I just think it's very obvious that they've course corrected a lot since inheriting the franchise, and I hope the people behind the scenes love the game as much or more than the fans do.
Yeah, I'm going to say something I haven't said yet on the show, but it's been on my mind the past, 2 weeks. There's a part of me as excited as I am for Infinite. No part of me's not. There's a part of me knowing that there was a lot of course correction. There's a part of me that's sad because whatever they might have had planned for Halo 6 is not really there. Yeah. And I'm sure there's going to be elements of that. I feel like that's fair of us to expect. And I'm glad for that. But I'm with you, Brian. Halo 4 has got so much respect on my end in retrospect. It deserved it right out the gate, but I'm happy that I've at least reached that point this past year, because they did not try to recycle elements from the previous Halo games. They very much tried to make their own Halo game and start a new era. And I think that is just such a scary thing to do, and I think it was hard for people like me to accept. But I think the me that has grown up and become more mature realizes that was the right move, and it was the right call. Even though I didn't like the multiplayer as much, I agree with you. I think it's fun as heck to still play. Yeah. I still have a lot of fun playing it. In something like Halo 5, yeah, I mean, I didn't like the story as much, but gosh, I loved the multiplayer. And I have so many... Yeah, the gameplay in general. It's a fun game to play, and that's why I play games, because I want to have a fun time. So, a part of me feels bad that because of how much course correction they have had to do, that Halo Infinite is very much... They're trying to give us a product that they think the majority of us are going to want. They know they can't please everybody, but this looks like a next-gen Halo 3 from what we've seen.
Yeah.
And Halo 3 is a lot of people's favorite Halo. That's where Halo hit its peak.
Yeah.
Whether whether it's your favorite or not, and I respect them for trying to do something like that. But it's just, the other part of me says, man, after this game comes out, there is probably going to be a part of me that wonders, what kind of story was Halo 6 initially going to be? And I say that because I wonder that with Star Wars sometimes. What was, we know very briefly a couple bullet points about George Lucas's original plan trilogy for Star Wars, and I always wonder what might that have looked like, what might that story had been like for us with some proper exposition to it, And I'm grateful for what's there, and that's the thing to bring it back. Is I'm really grateful for Infinite. I'm grateful that this is going to be some platform moving forward. I love what they're doing, but I think out of respect to them, I'm always going to wonder from a creator standpoint, what story were they initially planning to do because they were expecting 5 to be as successful. I mean, it was still successful, but, they're making this for us as they make any game, but I think this especially, Infinite's really the one where they're trying to say, we understand your feedback, we've taken it, we've heard, and we do understand. We want to make this game and make it as best we can for everybody out there, but I'm always going to be a little bit curious about the little behind the scenes.
Well, we know that people have left 343 over creative differences and stuff, and I just wonder how many people who've either left or who are still there are continually frustrated with, creative vision being funneled into what people expect. And to go ahead and use an example we've used 1,000 times, like you just look at Disney's approach to Star Wars, or original trilogy everything. Look, design, sound, story beats, original trilogy. Don't want to hear the prequels, don't want to think about the prequels, nothing. And then that comes out, and now you see so many people finding love with the prequels because they're like, man, prequels is more Star Wars that's original, new concepts. And I think we're going to see that a lot too if Infinite truly is, as it appears to be, much more in line with older style Halos. We're going to see people go, man, I miss that Halo 4 and 5 era. You had those crazy 400 designs. You had Diadac. You had Team Osiris. They're going to go, wow, I really miss that stuff. And there is something lost when you just kind of go back to what's familiar. But even saying that, it's such a hard yin and yang, because it's me and Josh are also really excited to see what they're doing with Infinite and to see it go back to that Halo 3-esque stuff. So you win some, you lose some, no matter what you do.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think it applies to nostalgia again. Nostalgia is not something that can really stretch. It can't really last. Nostalgia is that it's there. Nostalgia is there because it's a short moment. It's a short feeling or emotion that evokes happy memories. And it's not something you can really span out. And that's a tough thing to do. And as we saw with something like Star Wars, people were initially happy, with Force Awakens, initially happy at first. Then a lot of those people turned because they realized they went and looked at something like the prequels and were like, oh, at least there was a vision, or at least he was trying to do something new with that, And I'm not going to get into all that, but I think there's something to be said for that kind of aspect of when it comes to I guess the world we're in now, because there is so many soft reboots, there is so many remakes. You don't want to get too reliant on that. In a lot of ways we have, because people will flock to that stuff because that's what sells, because people want to remember, the good old days. But in doing so, we forget to live in the present and appreciate what we have now and what we have to look forward to. And we're in doing that and looking back and missing that, we kind of close ourselves off to having these new experiences that 10 years from now we can look back and say, hey, wow, I miss that good old day. I miss those good times. So with Halo Infinite, that's the good thing I think we can both agree on. It's this looks like so very much that, yes, they're trying to bring back and harken us to the old days, but also take it into a new way. The fact that we know that this is going to have elements from Halo 5 carried over, it's obviously a sequel to it, but it's trying to be its own thing at the same time. That makes me freaking excited, because it's okay, if you're trying to conclude this trilogy, what does this mean for the next era? We keep talking about this post-launch DLC it's going to be maybe Planet Locke, or maybe some other new characters, but what if it's something else entirely? We're only looking within the span of our own creative expectations, and we can't see outside of that what they might already have planned. There's so much potential here, and if they use this, I guess I'll put it this way: I could see the narrative being, this probably might take us into a next topic. I'm sorry if I'm doing it prematurely, but I could see the narrative being a year or two after this game's out, that people are it's a Force Awakens, it's just a recycled, it's just a rehash. I don't think it's going to be that, but I'm just saying I could see some people maybe pulling some aspects from it and saying that. But I think ultimately that probably won't happen. I feel optimistic it won't, because it's going to be more of a service game. And now that it's getting delayed, I feel a lot more better. Like, it's probably not going to launch like Sea of Thieves at first, where it was very empty and hollow, kind of like Destiny, where, you know, it had a very light story and then kind of like a little bit of an end game. And, you know, all these sort of live service games took a while to grow. Yeah. And they grew into something great, but they didn't necessarily launch that way. And I feel, even though Halo Infinite's a bit different, it does bear some similarities to what they were trying to do with that stuff. And I feel like I'm going to be so excited to have this game launch as a complete full product and then see where they take it from there. That, to me, I don't want to swear, but it's freaking awesome.
Yeah, I think to rearrange the topics, because I think this is more interesting way to go about it. Josh, what do you say? What are your thoughts on those people saying, cancel the Xbox One version, I only want it developed for Series X? What are your thoughts? I
understand it, but I think it goes against what Microsoft is even trying to do in general, and I think let me see. Two answers. I'm gonna give you two quick answers because I've been rambling for a while. I want to hear you. I empathize with that because one part of me says, yeah, I mean, let it go. Like, let it go. Let's just move forward, focus forward, so you're not being held back. But the other part of me says the whole point of Xbox this generation, moving into Series X generation, has been very much about accessibility, being able to play every generation of Xbox games however you want. Even if you have a disability, we have a controller for that. We can play it on the PC. We have this Game Pass. We have all these different ways you can play games. Now we have xCloud. You know, I think that would go against their mandate, and I don't think it's viable. You know, if they do it, I'm fine with it. If they don't do it, I'm fine with it too. I don't think it matters though in the long run. I guess I should rephrase that. I think it matters more that it still comes out on the Xbox One. And I say that as someone who does have friends who have already decided they're going to go PS5 and may not get. They have an Xbox One. They may not get a Series X. Well, I can still play with them probably.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that I think in most cases it's all in people's head. That's how I feel. That's a hot take, but I feel like it's all in people's heads a lot of times. I'm going to go back to what Taras said. I always say his name wrong. It's so hard. It's Taras, I think, actually.
That's Taras.
It is Taras. Okay, I got it right. Okay. Something Taras said just a couple episodes ago. He said, so many of the games we've got this generation are just 360 PS3 era games that look prettier. He said that. You can go back and listen to that. And I agree 100% with him. He mentioned that Doom 2016 that came out for next gen, it's running on the Switch. Now, obviously, it's not running as well, but it's running on the Switch, and it's still pretty viable. I agree with him wholeheartedly. I think that people get way too caught up on the idea of generations and things being new, and they think that Halo Infinite, especially 5 years into development, whatever, they think it's going to be wildly better or different if it's developed just for Series X. I don't think it will be. First of all, it's already been developed with Xbox One in mind, and then secondly, unless we're talking about graphic fidelity, which you have a lot better. There's a lot better points to be made about that. Like if the game's in 4K, if it runs 60 frames, if the graphics are prettier on the Series X, I understand that. But the game that they've designed, as far as campaign and multiplayer and how you play that and how you interact in the game, that's going to be the same, I feel like, across Xbox One and Series X. And like Josh said, it does go against their whole marketing strategy right now. Play anywhere, play on anything, play with Game Pass.
Multiplayer is going to be free, for example, and, part of the benefit of that would be enabling Xbox One players to get in on that too, because you're already having PC players.
I also think it's a little bit selfish to, I think we get really caught up in our own, everyone who's, on the Twitter, on game websites, listening to podcasts like us, going to forums, we're not the average consumer. I feel like it's really selfish for us to say, this is my hobby, I follow this all the time, pay for a $700 system, or don't play the new Halo. No, it's fine that it's on the Xbox One. I mean, it's just like if I was in a different hobby, where I want a car, but they make the next model have some ridiculously good feature that I can't use unless I pay for a whole new one all over again. I don't think we should gatekeep people just because we want to have a little bit prettier of a game or whatnot. And plus, they can still do that with the Series X. They can still have that one be prettier. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I like what you said about that because I'm going to get a PS5 at some point, and I love with their approach. They have a completely different approach, and they want their justification for less backwards compatibility and less all this kind of stuff is they want you to be able to feel like when you buy a PS5 that you're getting your money's worth because you can't play these games anywhere else. That makes complete sense to me. But then on the Microsoft side, the reason why I love that they're so different too is because they're saying the complete opposite. They're saying we want you to be able to have as many options as possible to play these games that we make, and we want everyone to be able to we want to make it easy for people to do this. We want to basically, if they were, I guess, putting a selfish spin on it, they would probably say, like, we want to make sure it's damn hard for you to say, oh, I don't want to play that game. It's too hard to play that game on Xbox. I got to go do this and this and this. I got to jump through all these hoops. No, you don't. Boom. You can do it this way.
Yeah.
I like that. I love both approaches, but I agree with you completely, Brian.